Hey guys, it's Maris. Welcome back to Harpies in the Trees, where I review horror books with a supernatural focus. So today is going to be a good day because we're talking about new releases that are going to be coming out for September and October, which I can't even believe I'm talking about these months already. Most of these are going to be haunted house stories, which is obviously awesome. There's a cosmic horror story, and then there's another one that's like, it's very interesting. It's kind of unusual. We'll talk about that when we get there. So we have 9 books to talk about, I believe. So let's go ahead and jump right in. For the first book for September, we have a Darcy Coates book coming out on September 6th, and it is Gallows Hill. Really love the cover. It has, you know, that very traditional Darcy Coates kind of cover, which I love it. Like, I love that aesthetic so much. So this story is about a winery, and it's called the Gallows Hill Winery.
Nice.
And it gets its name from its actual location. Like, the land that it's on was historically a place where convicts were hung by the hundreds. And locals in this village believe that this ground is cursed or haunted because of this. But even though it might be cursed, the winery did really, really well. But one day, the owners end up dead. No one knows how, no one knows why. They just walked into the winery and never walked out. Their daughter is asked to come and take care of the estate and to handle her parents' funeral. And she hasn't been there for like 10 years. So the place is kind of unrecognizable to her, but she's getting this really bad vibe. And she starts to think that maybe this place really is cursed. So what I liked about this, obviously, is that it's a haunted house story, and you have a location with a history, a new person coming in, trying to figure out what's going on, but there is an event that pulls them back into this location. We will see this trope throughout this list, but again, I personally love these stories. I can read so many different shades and hues of this type of setup, so I'm really looking forward to this one. The Fellstones by Ramsey Campbell comes out on September 13th, and this is a cosmic horror story that sounds pretty compelling. So the story is about Paul, who was adopted by a family after his parents died in a car accident. His adoptive parents were very controlling, and they seemed to be very obsessed with some of his behaviors. Like, he would do this thing where he would sing this song over and over and over again. And they seem to be very obsessed with it. So at the first opportunity, he leaves home. He wants to get away from their controlling behavior, but eventually their daughter finds Paul. And there are secrets, like when he was found as a child, he was found in a very specific location near these stones, these fell stones. They have a very significant meaning for who he is, but will he be able to figure it out before he's trapped? It sounds pretty cool. I like that, like, origin kind of thing, you know, where you're trying to figure out, you know, who you are or where you're from and like what it all means and everything. Ghost Eaters by Clay McLeod Chapman comes out on September 20th. So Chapman wrote also Whisper Down the Lane and The Remaking. So if you liked those books, that's this author here. So it has this really interesting mechanic. So this is about a woman named Erin who has a friend who overdoses and dies. And this is extremely difficult for her. I mean, this was her best friend, until she stumbles upon something that her friend had discovered, which was a pill that would allow you to see the dead. But she learns about it and she just thinks like, oh, this can't be real, right? This doesn't make any sense. But she ends up getting a hold of one of these pills and takes it, believing nothing's gonna happen. She takes the pill, she starts walking around her hometown, and she starts seeing these ghosts from this town's past. So like historical characters, I'm assuming, you know, like people from wars and things like that. And now she's having to have this discussion with herself, like, is it in my mind or is it something occultish or supernatural? And how do you get it to stop? Is it just gonna wear off or is this forever now? So I feel like the science of the pill will have to be something that makes sense for me to get down with it. Okay, this next one is the Tallow Site by Rebecca Campbell. And it comes out sometime in September. I'm not sure what the actual date is on this. And I actually couldn't find a cover for it and very little like information. So we'll have to see if it gets pushed back a little bit. It might. So the synopsis is really short, and I'm just going to read it to you. It's 1916 during the First World War in an alternate world where resurrection is possible. Annie Markham, the daughter of a celebrated neurologist, is using the bodies of the dead, combining them into new forms and sending them back into combat, building creatures so complex and so enormous that they can encompass all of the fallen. This synopsis feels really like familiar to me. Like I feel like I talked about this maybe, but I cannot remember. And I went through my files and I didn't see anything about it, but I don't know, maybe I did. Maybe it's been pushed back a million times, like who knows? But anyway, regardless, it sounds cool. I mean, it's pretty creepy, pretty eerie, kind of has a little bit of Frankenstein kind of vibes, and then also just this aspect of building these soldiers out of dead bodies. That's very repulsive and creepy, you know? So it could be interesting, could be really interesting. Mother Thing. I love this title. I love the title. It's so good. It's by Annesley Hogarth. Comes out on October 4th. This is a comedic horror book. So this is about a wife and her husband who are being haunted and terrorized by the vengeful ghost of the mother-in-law. When the mother-in-law was alive, she did not care for the wife at all. She was very venomous and cruel. So it seems like she probably really enjoyed being just a terror in life and in the afterlife as well to this woman. So now Abby has to find a way to rescue her husband, who has been, you know, put into this deep depression by his mother, and find a way to get this spirit out of their house. I can already imagine like Abby's frustration, you know, like you were so annoying when you were alive. And then when she finally keels over and it's like, oh, okay, we can now live our lives freely. Nope.
Bing bong, I'm back.
The Hollow Kind by Andy Davidson, who's also the author for The Boatman's Daughter, which I have and still haven't read yet. So this is another one of those stories where you have these people who need a place to go. There's nowhere to go because they don't have any options really. And then something just kind of, you know, materializes out of the universe. And in this case, it's going to be our character's grandfather who passes away and leaves Nellie and her son Max, who's 11 years old, an estate called Red Fern Hill. But when Nellie arrives to this estate, it's actually not an estate. It's a dilapidated farmhouse. But it's not too bad because the house is on this pretty large acreage of land, which is really beautiful and eerily quiet. Nellie's son Max is very observative, and he begins to pick up right away that there's something not right here. There's something funky about this farmhouse. When the Night Bells Ring by Joe Kaplan comes out on October 11th. So this is a cool one. It reminds me of the movie The Descent, and I like caves. And I like old mining caves. They just, I don't know, there's just something about an old mining cave that just seems so messed up. You know, just for so many reasons, but they're always eerie and they're always creepy. This story takes place in a future where the climate has become extremely hot and dry, and finding water is extremely difficult. Two women are on a mission trying to find water, basically, and they stumble upon a old mining cave. And they think, well, you know, maybe there'll be water down there. And while they're hunting around in there, they find this old diary from the late 1860s. It's written by a settler. And this diary begins to mention something very large that lives within the cave system. Something that doesn't want anyone disturbing the earth around it, which has already been disturbed, so it's disturbed. After reading this diary, the two women rethink their idea about coming down to the mines and looking for water and decide to skedaddle, but they can't actually get out as easily as they hoped, especially since one of them has injured themselves, and finding your way out of a cave system is not super easy. So obviously this sounds really cool. Like, what is it gonna be? You know, is it a sandworm? Is it an alien? Is it a lost cryptid creature? Could it be like a grouping of souls that are left inside of the mine? I don't know. It literally could be anything. Sebastian by P.D. Kasek? If you know how to pronounce it, let me know. Comes out on October 18th. Okay. I love this premise because you guys know I've been playing Alice in Madness Returns. There is this level in the game where it's all dolls, and I am really into the whole like creepy baby doll aesthetic right now. Like, I'm just really into it. And this story is about a doll. It's not a baby doll, but it's about a doll. Let me tell you what it's about. In this story, there is a woman who is a renowned photographer. She has a son who has been her model many times. So he knows how she works. He knows how she gets extremely, you know, laser focused on her projects, and also how she can be a bit eccentric. But it's when she gets this new model. It's not a person though, it's a mannequin. It's maybe this size and shape of a toddler, but it has no features, completely featureless. And his mother names it Sebastian, and she becomes very obsessed with Sebastian. And this is when her son begins to start questioning her sanity and then also their safety. So it sounds cool, it sounds fun, you know, it sounds creepy. That's what I like about it, it sounds creepy. The last one is The Toll by Carly Reagan. It comes out on October 4th. And this is also a haunted house story. It was a good month for haunted houses, I have to say. It's another one of those like mom and son need house bad stories. But you know, I'm down with that. So this mom and son, they are looking specifically for a home in the country, and they find this house called the Toll House, and the realtor describes it as a house with a history. We all know what that means. But every house has a history. It has good bones, and you just gotta paint it and do some stuff to it and it'll be fine. But the mom ends up finding something that has her questioning the history of this house now. Because she finds a death mask in the house of a person. And of course, this starts setting off things happening in the house. Dylan begins to have nightmares, and he starts seeing figures in his room, and he becomes increasingly difficult with her. So now she needs to figure out what's going on in the house, you know, to keep her son safe, and you know, who is the person behind the death mask? So this sounds fun. I like the aspect of the death mask because it's very unusual. Death masks are not usually just found in domestic places. And I think they're pretty antiquated. I don't think they made them after a certain time period. I'm surprised the Victorians were not all over that, because you know how they love their death mourning stuff, but it's also given me a little bit of the Babadook vibes with the kid. So those were the releases that are coming up in September and October. We had a lot of haunted house books, which makes sense, October. So it was a lot of fun. So let me know down in the comments what books sounded good to you, what books didn't sound good to you. Let us know all of those details. Other than that, thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me today. I really, really appreciate it. Please like and comment if this video was useful for you, and subscribe if you would like some more videos from me. Other than that, please take care of yourselves, look out for each other, and I will talk to you next time.